3, 2, 1. Hi, Tribe. I'm Versavia, and you're listening to Community Conversations, the place on Objectively Typed, where we get to know you, our community, a little bit better. Today, I have Elizabeth, who is, I think, the closest person in our community to my type twin. You are double masculine, just like me, SeFi, and then you're consume, play, blast, sleep at the end, whereas I'm consume, sleep, blast, play.
Yeah, we're basically twins. You're the sleepy twin. I'm the
You're
playful
the crackhead twin.
Yep, apparently.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think one of my roommates is your type twin.
Oh, really?
Because him and I are so similar, but he's way more high energy than I am.
Huh. Okay.
So yeah, I would love to get to know you a bit better and kind of, I don't know, explore where our types are similar and where they do deviate. Also kind of curious about I guess let's start off with that. What brought you to OPS, and like, you're not as active in the Facebook group as some other people are, but I see you pop in every now and then. So yeah.
Yeah, I try to do that every now and then.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't have all the time in the world to like be going on Facebook every freaking day or something.
Yeah. That would be me. More interesting on the online world than in the real world sometimes.
Okay. All right. So what got me into OPS? I was basically at a point in my MBTI journey. Like I had been on the journey for like a couple of years at that point, since 2016. And I was starting to get to the point where I was realizing that basically your own subjective experience is only a part of your story, right? Like you actually have to triangulate from the tribe to actually like get to know yourself better. Because of course, no one is going to know who you are like subjectively, but I also have no idea like what the outside world thinks of me. So I was actually starting to get to the point of, okay, maybe I should probably like check in with other people, see what type they think I am.
Okay.
And, yeah.
And before you got to OPS, this was like in Myers-Briggs land, you were asking people.
Yeah, like I was already starting to consider that option, right?
Okay.
So that's when I discovered Dave Superpowers' channel pretty much at around the same time. So if that's not serendipity for you, I don't know what is.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's how I got into OPS.
So what type did you think you were in Myers-Briggs?
Well,
you don't have to share.
Laughable now, but INTP. I landed on INTP.
I find so many people thought they were INTPs. A lot more people thought they were INTPs than INTJs.
Yeah, that are like ESFPs, right?
No, I thought I was an ENFP.
Okay.
But yeah, so I wasn't too far off. But like when I was typing myself in the ops system of the ENFPs, I typed myself as NETE, which is about as different from me as I can be.
You still thought you were NT then?
Yes, yeah. I thought I was NT, and that's because I didn't. So yeah, how was that? How was learning your type? Did it take you like? Yeah, did it sit well?
I don't think it took me too long to realize why I might have typed myself INTP when I was actually like the type that I am. It's essentially just sleep last. So when the emotions come up, it's kind of hard to control in the moment. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I was interpreting that as, FE last, essentially, like having problems with emotions and stuff like that, like not necessarily processing the whole thing before thinking about it or something like that. So I was interpreting that as TI Dom, and then I don't know, I just didn't think I had SE. Like I had actually convinced myself with socionics that I was SE polar.
Okay.
Can you believe that?
I mean, yes, I was sure that the one thing I don't have in my stack was SE, because SE is like for all those like sporty athletic people, right? Like that's not me. But that's not SE at all.
Caught up in the moment, so wrapped up and present in the moment, and I just never felt that.
Oh, interesting. So you've never really felt like present in the moment?
Yeah, not really.
Oh.
Maybe I am on the spectrum, but I mean, at least in my own subjective head, no.
What is it like in your subjective head?
I mean, I find myself not necessarily. This might sound really bad, but I don't necessarily consider myself to be a really good listener, in the sense that, yes, I'm hearing you talk, but I'm only getting like half of what you're saying. And the rest of the time I might just be like in my head because you said something that sprung up a thought
Triggered.
in my head. Yeah, so
Oh,
I'm thinking about something while you might be saying something else.
yes, yes, yes. I find that to be like OE. So they talk about how NE is the ADHD function, right? Like that
Uh-huh.
inability to concentrate. But
Mm-hmm.
SE also, like sometimes I want to go chase down an SE thought that
Yes.
like that came up during conversation, and it's hard
Yeah, like
to come
basically,
back.
uh-huh. Yeah, basically. So if you said something interesting, that might spring up an interesting idea in my head. And
Hmm.
basically, yeah, I'm thinking about that instead of instead of maybe listening to whatever it is the other person is saying.
Yep, that makes
Oh
sense.
man. Oh, I was actually kind of curious. You have consumed sleep together, right? Like top two.
Hmm.
Would you consider yourself to be a good listener at all?
Um, yeah, that I mean, people have described me as a good listener, yeah, but people have also described me as impatient, and I think both of those are very true.
Hmm.
I
Okay.
think a part of it is like when my FI, like the thing with consume sleep or in general, like demon blast play, is that wherever my DI is pointing, that's where I'm going to be blast playing, right? So
Mhm.
if my DI is pointing, if my FI is pointing at listening to you, then I'm going
Mhm.
to be listening to you and I'm going to be like there. But if my FI is pointing at like coming up with some thought or like going down this rabbit hole I have over here, oh, this idea or something like that, my head's going to be there instead of in the conversation.
Okay,
So it's
okay.
like,
So it's very dependent on your FI pretty much.
yeah, which is why like any sense of discipline or like routine is so hard for me.
Oh my God, me too.
You too? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, wait, let's talk about this. What's your
Okay.
relationship with routines? Mine is
Oh my God.
non-existent.
It's an elusive demon for me.
It is. I
Yes.
feel like when I manage to get a handle on any kind of like routines and
Mhm.
really own that, that will be like the big alpha journey of my life. When I can handle that, then everything else will be easy in comparison.
Yeah, that's basically the biggest challenge in my life too,
Yeah, that's the
pretty
big
much.
bad demon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So what happens when you do try to routinize something? Like say you try and get into a routine of, I don't know, what's a routine that you've been struggling with?
Um, I mean, right now, the one I'm struggling with the most is just setting up a consistent sleep schedule, which of course sleep last. But yeah, 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 it's very hard for me to because I wake up at like 4:30 in the morning every day because I mean the commute between my house and school it's pretty long and I go to school
How
pretty
long
early in
is
the
your
morning.
commute?
Yeah, so the morning routine I have narrowed down, but the evening routine of actually going to sleep on time or going to sleep at the same time every day,
Mm.
yeah, yeah, that's pretty difficult. There's always something to consume and
There's
always
always
something to
something
talk
new,
about.
right? Yes,
Yeah,
yes. There's always something. Um,
yeah.
yeah, I find myself so even when it comes to something simple like, there was a point where every morning I'd have the routine. I'd get into the office, I'd have a cup of coffee, I'd catch up with some coworkers, and then I sit down and go through my,
Mhm.
messages and whatever else I need to do. Um, but even that little thing of like just getting coffee every morning, when I notice that that is a habit I've developed, it's like I need to do a table flip on it and like, oh,
Oh,
can't do coffee, or like I need to switch it up and do tea, or no, I should stop doing this, like drinking something in the morning. I should switch it up in some way. Like, do you experience that? Like needing
actually,
to
yeah,
do,
something similar. Except
yeah?
for me, I've been trying to get into it's not really a routine, it's more of a habit of just not taking in as much refined sugar as possible.
Mm,
So I've been trying to get into the routine pretty much of not having coffee or any kind of sugary whatever early in the morning or at all really during
mm.
the day. And I mean so far so good, but I still have my moments.
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. Do
Yeah.
you when you notice yourself falling into a habit, do you like engage in self-sabotaging behavior and do a table flip on that habit, or not really?
Last year in the summer, I was trying to get into the routine of basically what's it called? Like there were some things that I wanted to study and some like productive things that I wanted to do throughout the morning up until 3 p.m.
Hmm.
And for 40 days, that routine totally worked,
That's awesome.
right? For
Yeah.
40 days.
40
But
days,
then my
that's a
birthday
while.
happened and yep, that
That's
flipped the fucking table
so
for
that
sure.
okay. I think you're getting onto something in terms of like, um, so I think people who are savior OI, NI, or SI, when
Hmm.
they have that obligation to stability, right? Um, to consistency. So when something deviates them from that stability or consistency, when they encounter a bump in the road, when they encounter some kind of like darkness or challenge related to that obligation to narrow
Hmm.
it down, they're just like, oh, okay, and then they get back on the horse.
Yeah,
Whereas for
yeah,
us,
they
it's
feel
like,
obligated to get back on that track versus us was like, oh, fuck it.
oh, great, it's an excuse for me to go run back to my SE savior. Like
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Oh my
Okay.
god.
So, how tell me how else, like, okay, so how do you see your demon sleep versus savior play? Like for me, demon play.
Hmm. For me, I think that's actually brought me more tidal waves than just the control, than just the demon controller, the demon
Okay.
N. Because god, it's just weird. Because I know there are some things, like some insecurities or whatever, that I haven't processed. And if I'm talking to someone and something they bring up, like basically triggers that
Uh-huh.
insecurity in me, oh no.
Yeah.
It's like I can't control my emotions right then and there. I either have to go into the shower right away to cry it out, or like, yeah, it's hard to process things basically.
Well, like, I mean, just the fact I also run to the bathroom to cry it out.
Hmm.
Like that's definitely a thing, but I think that that's coming from like, so the obligation to the FI, and also
Yeah,
our
yeah, for
FI
sure.
wants to process privately, right? We don't have FE,
Hmm.
so we don't want to, at least
Yeah,
I
I don't
don't
want
want
to
to
process in
share.
front of other people.
No.
Yeah, no.
So it's curious, like I do want a witness to my emotions, but
Mm.
like I want it to be a carefully curated person I trust rather
Oh, sure.
than like open to the whole world, which I feel like maybe this is an oversimplification, but FE is more like, okay, as long as there's some tribe member that can FE with me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm thinking for the most part, FEs do tend to do that. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, there's an obligation to process your emotions with the tribe, right? Versus for
Yeah.
us, it's just, no, I want to process it by myself.
Yeah. It's my responsibility. It's not the tribe's responsibility to know
Yeah,
what
the
my
main thing I
emotional
see with
state
that,
is.
oh, I'm sorry. What was that?
No, go ahead. The main thing.
Yeah, the main thing I see with that as basically being sleep last, it's just basically the same insecurity being triggered over and over and
And
over.
over.
It's like, oh
Okay.
my God, wait, why have I not processed this? Jesus Christ, that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But I mean, like, yeah, I get that. Even for Save Your Sleep, I was talking to Heather the other day, who is, also double masculine ESFP, except that she's Save Your Play. So she's got TE instead of FI. But we were
Okay.
chatting, and like, even me with Save Your Sleep and the obligation to sleep, like, it's not easy, right? And I push away at the responsibility to sleep as well.
Mhm.
It's just that I feel obligated to it, and I also feel stuck. Like I can't access my blast or my play until I have slept processed, or at least that's what it feels like.
Mm.
Like the sleep is a blocker, and then as soon as
That's
I,
interesting. Okay.
yeah, and I think like there's a lot of conversation about whether or not, not a lot actually, but there is some conversation about whether or not you can access your other animals without doing the one above it, because they sometimes refer to the animals as filters, right? Which would
Hmm.
imply you can't get to the one below it unless you've gone through the one above. And that's definitely how I experience them. Like I can't get to play. Like
Hmm.
for me to expend energy before I have sleep processed is not sustainable. I can do it for a short amount of time, but I will burn out and flip out on someone if I am forced to do it for longer than I like is, I don't know, for too long, I guess.
Hmm.
Do you
Yeah,
experience
that's
something like that?
interesting. I think for me, it's kind of sort of the opposite in the sense that at the very least, I would have to simulate the play blasting with
Mm.
someone before and that's how I actually simulate
That's
sleep.
how you, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and actually, one thing that I started doing, and it was actually mainly because of your YouTube channel, actually, I started doing audio recordings, like a diary recording of my own, like
Oh,
whatever, right? And yeah, I basically started doing that like almost every day for a few months and just listening back to that. So
oh, that's awesome.
basically, just play blasting it out and then consuming it, and yeah, that's how I was able
That
to process a lot of
that's what
things.
Thomas does. That's how
Who?
Thomas a lot.
Oh, oh
That's
yeah,
also
yeah,
because
yeah.
he's play, blast, consume, sleep. So he's also sleep at the bottom. But that's what he does. That's how he simulates double deciding because he's a single decider.
Yeah, it's
So that's
interesting.
how he gets
Okay.
access to that, and that's also how he gets access to his sleep. And I don't know. I personally think that's brilliant. Like, like as long as you're getting around to it, who cares how you're getting there?
Right, right. Like
And
lately I have been trying to try to assimilate the emotions before I start play blasting, and sometimes I do get there, but I mean, whatever. It is more sustainable to try to do a combination of both pretty much.
yeah,
Like just
yeah.
cry it out before and then write it down and talk about it either to myself or to someone else.
Okay, so like yeah, I get you. Yeah, it feels like I don't know, like I can't yeah. Like cry and process, like if that makes sense. Not cry and process, like um cry and blast it out. I can't do both if that makes sense. Like even if I'm just talking to
Mm,
myself, like I'm either in a state of just like sobbing like a little girl
mhm.
or blasting it. I can't that makes
Okay.
sense.
I think so. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think so. I think so. It's like you basically have to process it first,
And then I can blast
and then you
about
can
it.
talk
Yeah.
about it.
Whereas for you, it sounds like you need to so how do you pull in your play in order to process?
Hmm.
Is it just the making of the recording, or is there something more there that's play like?
I have not slept on that one, but I yeah, I think it is mainly the recording. And sometimes if I'm talking to a person and the emotions are just coming up, fuck it, the emotions are coming out, right? So
Yeah.
so I cry it out right there. And oh god, usually it's my mom and she's lead TE, so I mean it's feminine TE, but she's still kind of awkward about it, crap, there. Right?
Yes.
So yeah, I
Yes.
can. So yeah, basically I just play it out with her.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
I
yeah.
the other day I had a really rough day and reached out to some friends to just like, because sometimes you just need a hug and all of that. And I'm just like realizing like most of my friends are all TEs and especially
Mm.
like a feminine TE and they're close and those are the ones I reached out to. I'm just like, none of you guys can FE. I need an FE user right now. Just needed a
Hmm.
little bit of that like, yeah, emotional support. Um
Yeah, or at the very least with my mom, it does take a while. Like she'll
yes,
listen
it's
to me while
there.
I'm crying and shit, but it isn't until maybe 20 minutes in that it kind of occurs to her, oh wait, I could give her a hug. Essentially.
I get that. I totally get that. Yeah. So how do you um see access to your shadow functions? Do you like find yourself FEing with people or not really?
Actually, no. What I find myself doing the most is TI.
Really? Okay. So could you
Yeah.
explain to me how you see your TI?
I basically see it in me essentially creating systems for how essentially how I organize and how I manage my clothes, for example, or any routine that I am trying to pick up. And then it's essentially trying to develop systems that work for me
Mm-hmm.
without the
That
involvement of
sounds
the
like
tribe.
NI. Like systems
It
sounds like
is, yeah.
NI.
Systems, and then a system that logically works for me, I would associate that with TI.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then for me, I think because my TE is double activated and masculine,
It's
and
a
the FI
force
is
to be
movable and
reckoned,
stuff.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the FI is movable and stuff. I can actually find myself basically being able to push the FI aside for a bit,
Mm-hmm.
for the sake of what is logical. And it's not even
Right.
necessarily what is logical for the tribe, what is useful for the tribe. It's just what I find to be logical for me, if that makes
Okay.
any sense.
It sort of does. Could you give me like a sensory example?
A sensory example. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, for example, the
For
major
example.
that I chose for my master's in college, it's not necessarily aligned with my FI.
Okay.
It's not it's more practical. It's applied statistics with big data analytics. So
Okay,
it's
cool.
more geared towards data science, right?
Right.
So the things that I do day to day, they're not necessarily part of my passion. Like this is not FI here.
Yeah, yeah.
But I guess the thing that it is practical, and I've learned to value practicality. So basically, I've learned to attach my FI to
To the
basically the long
TE.
term
Yeah.
and just basically give up my daily FI for what is logical today, if that makes any
Right.
sense.
Yes. So it sounds like you brought your FI on board with respecting your NI and TE demons, because
Yes,
you're
yes.
respecting the systems, you're respecting the logic, and
Hmm.
those are things that you FI value. So those are things you're trying to bring into your life.
Yeah, pretty much.
That sounds,
And it's
yeah.
not a, and the only reason I'm saying that's like an example of TI, it's just I'm not necessarily consulting the tribe for this. It's not necessarily like something that will be useful for the tribe, at least not currently, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
It's just something that is logical to me. I
Right.
don't know if that's how people would define TI, but that's the way I'm defining TI. So
Yeah. Well, I still struggle with understanding TI, so that's one of the
okay,
reasons I asked more about that one. But yeah, that sounds interesting. So okay, so we talked a little bit about your TE, which is, you're a double decider and it's double activated, so
mhm,
you have a really good balance with that. And if anything, it sounds like your TE is stronger than your FI, especially because it's masculine.
yeah,
Actually, so I was going to move on to
super.
NI, but before we get to that, tell me about the masculine part of your TE. Like, how do you see, or in general, your modality? Like, how do you see your double masculine come up in life? Have you been told throughout your whole life that you're too aggressive?
Actually, no, but I've definitely surprised people.
Surprised in what way?
Like, I mean, the first impression that I might leave on someone is, oh, she's very feminine or she's very whatever, especially, oh my God, especially when I was a little girl. Like, I used to play a lot with my hair and look at me, I'm so
Yeah.
pretty, right?
Yep. Yep.
But, but,
But
um, when people piss me off, I do have a short temper, pretty
okay.
much.
Okay.
Yeah, so the double masculine definitely shows up that way.
Mm.
And can I just tell you a little sensory example from when I was a
Yeah,
little
of
kid?
course.
Like, oh, of course, thank you, Rasavia, Essie Dom. Uh, so anyway, when I was in kindergarten, there was a stupid little boy that decided he wanted to bully me. So what
Okay.
he decided to do was just put sand in my hair, and he figured I
Oh,
would cry because literally every other girl cried.
right.
But what I did instead was wrestle into submission, pretty much. Yeah, and nobody stopped me because, well, oh, she's a little girl in her cute little dress, just wrestling a little boy. And of course, I made him cry, and that's how I ended a fight. So, yep, double masculine there.
Oh man. Do you do anything like for like, Dave and Shannon often talk about how masculine sensory wants to, punch at the world, and like, do you do anything like sports or anything like that, like that allows you to physically like express that masculine sensory? If that makes sense? Like wrestling or karate or whatever, anything like that.
It's actually good that you asked that because a couple of weeks ago, I got into a women's self-defense class.
Oh,
And
cool.
yes, you definitely do get to like tackle guys and wrestle them submission pretty much. Yeah, 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 yeah. And you don't even have to like get on top of them. You can be under them and still control them. And I mean,
Okay.
that's pretty fucking cool. So yeah, that's how I get the masculine sensory out.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I've always wanted to try something like that, but I never have.
Yeah, me too. I always wanted to try something around self-defense or like martial arts or something,
Yeah,
and now I'm
yeah.
finally getting the
Finally getting
chance.
around to it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Um, okay, and so Demon and I, how do you see that popping up in your life?
Um, hmm. Definitely demon control, and definitely like, oh my God, it got really bad a couple of years ago because I mean, I was definitely self-sabotaging myself at that point, and I
Hmm.
knew exactly where that self-sabotage was going to lead me, right? Like I could actually see that in my projection, but I just didn't pay
You still
attention to
do.
it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I just decided to ignore it because no, fuck it, I can do something now,
Mm,
right?
mm,
To basically prevent that. But deep down, I knew, like my FI knew, no, this is where you're
yeah,
gonna go, and this is
yeah,
the
yeah.
only way you're actually gonna get out of this rut that you've been in for the past 3 years or something.
Okay.
So yeah, but I guess the ultimate demon of that NI was that not only did I saw where my self-sabotage was leading in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
but what I didn't see was the effect that it would have on the tribe that I had in my vicinity,
Okay.
and how that was actually going to control me as well.
Oh,
So
okay.
that caused like an ultimate tidal wave. Like, holy
That
shit.
so that's what I was going to ask about. So with
Okay.
the SE and FI, right? So that
Hmm.
means that we have demon control and demon tribe. And how I see
Yes.
it pop up in my life is like my biggest freakouts is about the tribe controlling me. So
Yeah.
it's not just
Yeah, pretty much.
some kind of control, but like it's like a combination of a fear of tribe hate and a fear of control. And when it comes together, like I am terrified of the tribe's expectations or tribe hate or anything like that controlling me and limiting my options. Like those are the times when I have my biggest freakouts, the biggest like irrational freakouts.
Dude, that actually reminds me. Um, I'll give you another sensory example. So my mom recently was talking about, because I live in the border area between the United States and Mexico, right? And of course, me being OE, I want to get the fuck out, right? Eventually, like I want to leave. I don't want to live in one place for too long,
Yep.
right?
Oh,
So my
yes.
mom was, yeah, so my mom was talking about some other person that decided to stay in the same place, um, essentially for the rest of their life because, hey, it's pretty cheap around here, right? And you can still travel, you can still do whatever while still living here. And somehow my irrational brain twisted that into her saying, oh, you have to do it too because the other person did it. And
Right.
I totally freaked out. I started crying, I started screaming. I was like, no, I have to leave. So yeah, definitely felt controlled a little bit there.
A little bit. Yeah, my mom and I still like
Yeah.
when we have fights, it is always because so my mom is lead blast. So she's
Yeah, same.
yeah, some I think she's an EJ, she might be an IJ, I'm not sure, but she's got that savior control, right?
Hmm.
And anytime her and I clash, it is always because I am freaking out about her trying to control me. Like that is always the clash that her and I have. I like even,
Yeah.
like I'm 32, like by this point we should have handled that, but we don't. I mean, it doesn't happen often, but when we do fight, it's always about control. Control and chaos.
Oh, yeah. And my mom actually has to keep reminding me that no, I'm not trying to control you. I'm trying to help you.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes, yes. And it's also like it's a little thing. Like I will freak out like if my mom phrases something the wrong way, like instead of "Hey, could you bring that to me?" which is a question, right? It
Hmm.
leaves my options open. So I'm like, "Okay, yeah, sure, no problem." Versus "Hey, bring that to me." And when I hear "Hey, bring that to me," I'm like immediately like triggered. I'm like, "No," you know? But then if
Oh
it's
my God.
"Hey, could you?" then
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, yeah, of course, no problem." And I yeah, those are
Yeah.
like
Holy shit. It's like we're twins or something.
almost, yeah.
Yeah. Holy shit. Oh, I mean, a lot of examples came to mind at the same time when you were saying that, but holy shit. Like, I will always be telling her, hey, watch your tone, because the way
Yes.
she asks the question is
Yes,
like
is
making me
important.
defensive. It's like, mom, hey.
Yes, yes. And
Yeah.
so the other thing that I've noticed, like, I mean, mind you, the closest people in my life are EJs and IJs, and I get along with them really, really well.
Hmm.
But like, so my mom is an FE EJ, I think, and my sister is masculine TE at the top. She's also an EJ with
Okay.
masculine TE at the top. And I think a lot of so Savior DE thinks, well, not just Savior, RDE, regardless of where it is. So for you and I, even our, TE as well, even though it's a demon, we it thinks of people as a resource. Like, so if I'm trying to TE accomplish something, then I have the tribe as a resource to accomplish that, because that thing that I'm trying to accomplish is for the tribe, right?
Hmm.
And so I've noticed this in my mom and in my sister, that they use the tribe as an extension of their will, because they think that they are trying to do something for the tribe. So for example, my sister decides that, okay, it's Saturday, it's time to clean up the whole house. That means she also decides that everyone who is in that house at that moment will be cleaning up the house for then, so there's no like she thinks of us as resources for her to help her achieve what it is that she's trying to achieve. And that's when I have my freakouts. Like, no, no, no,
Mhm.
no, no. I am an independent entity. I will decide whether or not I am your resource to be used, kind of thing.
And it sounds pretty ironic because it sounds like she's using the tribe as a resource to help the tribe.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's exactly
Yeah,
how
that
TE
sounds very
works.
ironic.
Yeah, so like the TE uses the tribe as a resource
Uh-huh.
to TE to try and help something, right? But
Right.
those of us who are DI, and I think other TE users, they're like, yeah, sure, no problem, right? Because TE is like, okay, which idea will win out, right? Like it's whichever idea is best because it's looking at the
Mhm.
spectrum. Um, so, but then for me as a DI user, I'm like, okay, yes, I'll help you with this TE if my FI says, okay, it's yes, I'll help you with this TE. But if my FI wants to, I don't know, go Netflix and watch something instead of helping you clean the house, then I get like, that's when I get my freakouts and her and I get into fights. I mean, like, I have it handled as an adult, but that's when
Mhm.
I feel that urge rise up in me to like have that temper tantrum. By and large, I don't. Um, do you experience something like that?
Um, yes and no. Like the way I've experienced it in the past when I was a teenager was essentially getting pissed off at my mom, not just because she asked me to do something, but because she asked me to do something and I perceived that those same standards were not placed on other people. Like the
Oh,
whole
yes.
Pharisees game, if she didn't
Yes.
follow that, yeah, that's
Yes.
when I get
Oh,
pissed off. Like,
Lordy.
no.
Oh,
Oh my
God. Like,
God.
biggest trauma from my childhood
Yes.
is that, like, so I am one of 4 kids, 2 boys and 2 girls.
Okay.
And growing up, every single Friday, my sister and I, when we'd come home, we would, along with our mom, we would clean the whole house and we would cook dinner for Shabbat, for, for the whole family and all of that. And the entire time, my brothers would just be sitting and playing video games. And the TE Pharisees in me is like, but that
Yeah.
is not fair. Why am I cleaning the whole house and cooking you dinner while you're sitting on your ass and doing nothing? And my mom,
Yeah,
especially
same.
as an FE user, she's like, well, the value statement is such that boys get to do that and girls don't. So that's the communal values here. I'm like, well, fuck those values. It's still something as I speak on as an adult, even though I haven't had to deal with that for like a decade.
Oh, yeah.
That
Well,
TE
I guess that's a
Pharisees.
good thing for me that my mom was not FE because according to her, she had asked them to do something, and hey, maybe single observer, I just didn't see it,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
But yeah, yeah,
Do you
yeah,
see
that really
single
pissed me off. It
observer?
was just the whole Pharisees game of, hey, why do they just get to sit on their asses while I'm cleaning here?
Yes, yeah. No, yeah, Pharisees.
Yeah, yeah, Pharisees.
And I wonder if like TE Pharisees has more of a freak out when it's a demon rather than a savior. That'd be curious. I wonder if savior TEs freak out over Pharisees as much. Have you noticed?
I don't necessarily think they would freak out. They would just like, how do I explain it? They would try to enforce the Pharisees more, if that makes any sense. So basically, they would try to enforce it while we would freak out about it not being there, if that
Right,
makes any sense.
right. That does make sense. So they would take on the responsibility of making sure it is there, whereas you and I would just be freaking out over the fact that it's not,
Yeah.
potentially. Okay, so okay, so you brought up observer. So do you see your single observer issues?
Yes, actually.
Yeah.
And I guess technically I've always been like unconsciously conscious of them in
Okay.
the sense that, especially since my late teens, early 20s, I was trying to get into the whole order game, into the whole routine game. Like I was trying to balance out the lack of self-discipline with the whole, structure thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think that's the main thing that I see it in. Now, as far as like the single observer or like the demon understanding,
Hmm.
nowadays I see the demon understanding more, but I guess back in the day I would have been like, no, no, I think I understand everything fine.
Okay.
So
So that demon understanding, how do you see that pop up in your life?
I know I notice it more with school than anything else. In the sense that yes, I will look at the concepts and I will consume the concepts as if they were new sensory, but I
Hmm.
won't necessarily understand what it is that I'm trying to do until I do it, if that makes any sense.
It sort of does, yeah. But that also sounds like a kinesthetic experience. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
so
I
I
do
think,
learn through kinesthetic. Like I
yeah,
have to actually apply what it is that I'm doing into a problem to try to solve a problem in order for me to finally understand the concept.
yes. And that's also something that I see among SENI users.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if if it's as strong whether saviors or demons, but like, because SE wants to gather all of the sensory, right? And then from that sensory, you can see the NI. And
Hmm.
even if you have demon SC, sometimes the experience of like going through the actual experience allows you to gather sensory in a way, and then you can see that NI and understand it in a much deeper kind of way than
Hmm.
if you hadn't experienced that sensory. Like I
Yeah, and
find
one thing
us
I've
to,
actually seen with NIs recently is that a lot of them might actually seem like demon sensory to me,
mhm.
just because it takes them so long to finally get to the NI concept. Like even Dave was telling me about this in like some emails that we exchanged earlier this year, that yes, it will take years and years and years of experience to get to that final NI understanding. Even if like the NIs will try to get to it more quickly, but it will not be accurate until you have all of those
Oh,
experiences.
okay. Yeah, that
Yeah,
makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
Yeah, 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 of course. I mean, it's just like, FI, for example. Sure, we have an obligation to FI, right? But like, it could still take us years to understand why we value a particular thing, right?
Oh my
Um,
God, I was attributing that to sleep last. Thank
I
you.
mean, sleep last, yes, but like, even with an obligation to sleep, that doesn't mean like
Oh, okay,
NI,
okay.
it's like SE versus NE, right? Like SE, you open your eyes and it's there. Right?
Mhm.
Whereas NE requires a little more of your brain, right? In the same way,
Hmm.
I find that NI requires more of your brain, right? Because you need to actually process and understand what's happening. And
Mhm.
when it's applied to emotions, like, why would that be different? Emotions, if anything, I find emotions to be more of a clusterfuck to understand than something that's purely logical and TE.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Oh my God, and especially tying that down to the concept of your identity and using that to propel yourself forward into some sort of goal. Like that's the whole point of FI and I sleep, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I don't even know how to even begin. Like I think I've been trying to do that, and I know that there's a whole bunch of journals and recordings and just stuff in general that I know I should go back to, but I haven't.
That's
Like,
because of the demon and I, right? Like,
yeah,
why
yeah, yeah,
go
yeah.
back to what I know when I could just go
Yes,
get new?
yes. Like last year, I actually did the future authoring program from Jordan Peterson, and I did it that one time. And that one time, it was a pretty good sleep exercise, but I haven't gone back to it
Okay.
since.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
been a whole fucking
exactly.
year. I have not gone back to
Exactly.
that known information and refined it. Uh, yeah, yeah.
So I'm curious, how
Uh
do
huh.
you, so one of the things that I, even to this day, in some ways struggle with is, so, I mean, I fully agree with the type that Dave and Shannon gave me, but I'm
Hmm.
still trying to tease apart what is consume and what is play, because I think my consume sometimes seems very play-like, but I think that's because it's coming from a place of like, so what does SF consume mean? It means that we want to consume value states in the sensory real world. And where are you going to find value states in the sensory real world if not from people, right? So I like to consume from people first and foremost. And then maybe from other sources. Like if I want to learn something new, I would much rather learn it from a person than from a video online kind of thing.
Mm.
Um, but I consume from them rather than play with them when I'm learning, if that makes sense. So I'm wondering like how you see, I know yours are together, so it's probably harder to tease apart, but do you see a difference between when you're in consume mode and when you're in play mode?
I would have actually said that play mode involves people,
Exactly, and that's the
or at
existing
least,
definition, but
yeah,
I
or
have
at
play
the very
last.
least, it involves a simulation of someone else in my mind, because a lot of my thoughts are conversational. A lot of my thoughts,
Yeah. Oh,
in a lot of my thoughts,
interesting.
I am having a conversation either with someone else or with like a future self, if that makes any
Yeah.
sense. Like
Yeah.
either way, there's always someone, even if they're imaginary, to ping off of.
Mm,
Like
mm-hmm.
so, the whole consuming from people, that actually does sound like play to me. versus like SF consume. I don't necessarily see it as SF. I mostly see it as just things that I value in the physical world.
Right. Okay.
So a lot of times that does involve like, I don't know, it involves literature, it involves music, it involves just
Anything your
reading.
FI pings on.
Yes,
Yeah.
whatever my FI pings on.
Okay.
So that doesn't necessarily involve people.
Okay.
So the consume just by itself, no, I could be alone all day, all week, all month, not hear from the tribe, and I'll be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when I'm in
Interesting.
consume mode.
Okay. I'm still, yeah, so that's like one of the things I'm still trying to tease apart is the,
Yeah.
because I do have that play last, but I still very much feel like I am happiest. I agree. Like, so, okay, I can definitely go into a consume mode where I'm just like sitting and Netflixing or watching
Mm-hmm.
YouTube videos or that kind of like pure
Mm-hmm.
definition of consume, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I also like this, like being able to consume from you about your understanding and your experience with ops and all of that. Like, I find this kind of consume to be my favorite. Yes. Or maybe it's not consume, maybe it is play. You know, still teasing that apart.
Yeah, I would have actually thought this was play because play is a way of gathering information. Like,
Yeah,
yes,
but
you're changing information as well, but you're also taking in. So,
yes, but I'm
yeah, sure.
gathering
In a way, it is
information
a
for
form of consume.
myself rather than for the tribe, right? Like I'm as we're talking and all of that, I'm
Mhm.
gathering information
Yes.
because and it's all constantly being run through my FI and my understandings of like my experiences and all of that, right?
Hmm.
It's not being run through, well, does this work for the rest of the tribe? That's an
Yeah.
afterthought. So like, does this work for the rest of the tribe is the how I see the play. Like right now we're not having a TE powwow. We're having like
Hmm.
an FI powwow, it seems like.
Hmm.
Maybe not an FI powwow, but a DI powwow.
DI and DE in to a certain extent because we are trying to make each other understand whatever our perspective
That's true.
is.
That's true. That's an excellent point. Okay, so you mentioned that you discovered ops. Oh, actually, before I jump into that, I wanted to
Okay.
ask you about, so we briefly talked about the kinesthetic memory. Um, Are you like, is your physical environment organized in any way? Like, do you feel any kind of need for your physical environment to be cleaned up or organized, or not even remotely?
I actually don't. Like, I
Okay.
do organize my environment, but the way that I do it is it's very NI in the sense that, yes, I have piles of shit, but they're all different kinds of shit.
Yes,
So
yes,
every single
yes.
pile has its own
I'll have
category.
piles. Yeah, but this is the piles of paperwork I need to go through. This is the
Yes,
pile of stuff I need to put back away or something like
yes.
that.
So
Yeah.
even if everything is not exactly tidy, I have a general idea of where everything is.
Yes. Yes.
So
So
yeah, that for me is organized.
that's why I asked, because so I've been trying to, I have been a very organized person for since I was a kid,
Hmm.
which is weird for an EP, right? But
Right.
I actually think a lot of it is because of that kinesthetic modality, because how I understand it, and tell me if this, well, actually, how do you see your kinesthetic mode? Like, yes, how would you explain your kinesthetic modality to somebody who doesn't understand it?
Um, I mean, I would actually explain it the way that it is defined in like typical psychology in the sense that yes, I do learn better by doing.
By doing, okay.
Yes, learning by doing pretty much. Even if it's not like physical, even if it's just like purely mental, by applying a concept to whatever problem it is I'm solving, that is doing in and of itself. Does that make any
Okay.
sense? So I
Yes.
would actually see my kinesthetic modality there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I very much agree that like that need to do to, like when I imagine something, when I'm running through a videotape in my head, it's like I'm always in it. Like I'm experiencing it, whatever it is that I'm envisioning, like I'm
Mm-hmm.
in it. Um, so
Mm-hmm.
one way that I've been kind of thinking about kinesthetic is also, especially like, because we have really good memory for details and things like that.
Right.
I kind of, I very much, it's like we encode experiences, we encode sensory experiences through relationships. So like the relationship is that pile is paperwork I need to go through. Like that's a relationship, right? Or there was this thing that happened on this day, or like I know that in 2017 I was at this job, and so based on that I can deduce other things. It's like constantly maintaining a network of relationships in my head, and because of that I can pull out whatever sensory data I want, whatever like experiences I had, I can just pull it out based on a timeline, because time is a relationship, all that chronological stuff, or where it is on a page from a book I'm reading, or where it is in my room based on how I've chosen to organize my room. And I was wondering if you experienced it that way, and especially because I see like the need to organize, not the need, but like there's utility in organizing for a double masculine mind that I think might not be there for a non-double masculine mind.
I don't think that necessarily applies to everyone because, oh my God, I was actually talking to my twin literally last week.
Oh,
And he was going through his room, just moving around a lot because, kinesthetic.
mhm.
And he had no sense of organization whatsoever.
Okay. Okay.
So, like, I don't necessarily see a need for organizing for the double masculines
Not
necessarily. It's
organizing,
just
but maintaining, knowing where things, like knowing what the
not even
relationships
that.
are. No? Okay.
No, not even that.
Okay. And that
I
might
think
just
it's
be my
just
double activated NI.
right. I think it's just essentially someone that what's it called? That has recognized the need for the organization, even if it's not necessarily like all tidy and stuff. Someone that has recognized the need for the NI,
Mhm.
essentially, will do that little bit more.
Okay.
So
That
essentially
makes
taking
sense. Yeah.
responsibility for your demons. That's the way that I would see it.
Okay. Okay. So that's just a weird me thing then. The organizing.
Yeah,
Um,
and I actually only apply the organizing stuff either when my mom imposes it on me, like here's
okay.
a basket, put your shit in here, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Either that or just in my room. Just like in the little systems that I create in my closet for not spending so much time getting ready, pretty
Right.
much.
Okay.
Yeah. So in those little areas, that's where I've actually um, implemented a little bit more of the organized game.
Okay. That
Hmm.
makes sense. Um, so shifting gears a little bit, you said you're studying statistical analysis of big data?
Yes.
Okay. So actually this is, given your background, extra interesting question. So what do you think about the ops as a system? Um, like why are you choosing to spend your time in OPS versus other systems, or um, do
Mhm.
you still spend time in other systems or just ops, and kind of like why OPS in general?
Just OPS actually, especially for now. Like I completely stopped consuming MBTI stuff as soon as I got my type, pretty much.
Me too.
And yeah,
Me too.
and the whole Enneagram thing, like I've dabbled in and out of it, but it's not. I mean, it's too subjective. The Enneagram, it's kind of like those little NF crystals of, oh my God, this is gonna heal you, pretty much. Like that's how I see Enneagram. It's just NF hippie shit. So no, I don't trust it too much. It's valuable for sure,
Yes,
but
yeah,
I don't
agreed.
necessarily trust it.
You
If
don't
that
put
makes
weight on it as like,
yes,
yeah, okay.
yes.
But you
So
feel like you can with OPS?
um mainly because of the consistency that Dave and Shan have with their typing. Like even if their typing of someone is not accurate, I actually think it's still way better than other systems because one MBTI practitioner might get a very different type from another one. And just the fact that they're getting the same out of 512 types, like 90% of the time or something like that,
Hmm.
that is highly unlikely.
Yeah,
So that
yeah.
in and of
Have you
itself
crunched
is
the
just,
numbers on that?
um, yeah, I think it's like one in the millions or something like that.
I think it's
It's
even less than
ridiculous.
that, but yeah, it's like
Yeah.
I did the numbers on that. I would love, by the way, if you're interested, for somebody to check my math.
Okay.
But I did the numbers on it, and it was like to 10 to the 23rd, so 23
Yes.
zeros. And that's
Yes.
like I'm still trying to find a value that we can wrap our heads around that is comparable, because
Mhm.
literally the closest sun, closest star to our sun is like, I think the order of magnitude is like 10 zeros versus 23 zeros. So like it
Mm.
is even highly, like even more improbable than that. Like it's just, I don't think people grasp how highly unlikely it is to get a 90% agreement rate. And that
Yeah.
like, if it's so statistically improbable, then chances are they're actually seeing something,
Mhm.
because
Even if the interpretation of that something is not accurate.
yes, that's
Yeah.
that's
Like
that's
actually the main thing with science, like I know a lot of people criticize it because, oh my God, it's not accurate, right? Like the OPS is not necessarily accurate. But especially with science, you can't necessarily get to accuracy without having reliability first.
yes, yes. Whereas all the other systems aren't even trying for reliability yet.
No, no, they're
So
not.
you can't even have a conversation about validity with them because they're not even looking at playing the reliability game. But Dave and Shannon are at least playing the reliability game.
Yeah, at the very least. The only thing about OPS that I would be a tad bit concerned about is just the process of typing itself, making it to science. Like I can definitely see a lot of psychologists being interested in, oh, like you get the same type out of 512 90% of the time. Oh, there are patterns here concerning like clustering of certain things with type. That's really interesting. And especially if they take it to the genetic area, that would definitely be interesting just to see what clusters come up there. But the only thing that does kind of like concern me would be the process of typing, because even if they're getting to the same type out of 512, the process itself is still subjective, like on both of their ends. Like there isn't a step-by-step procedure and objective procedure
Right,
of
right,
typing, if that makes any
right.
sense.
It hasn't been SI. The methodology needs to be such
Right.
that any person, like the nature of the scientific method is that any Joe Schmo off the streets
Hmm.
having the same resources should be able to replicate and arrive at the same results. And that's not true
Exactly.
yet.
Exactly. So if you ask 9 questions, because I actually figured out sometime last year that it would take roughly 9 questions to get to someone's type,
Yeah.
pretty
It's
much.
yeah.
Yeah, like it's basically 9 coins, right?
Yeah. Nine
So if
binary
you ask the
questions.
right question concerning those 9 coins, everyone should be able to arrive at the same type.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess we're just not doing that
Yeah,
right
I,
now.
I I
Yeah.
think there's still a lot of experimentation to be done with the methodology of typing, and I think that
Yeah.
is showing itself because, like, do you type along with the class at all, or
Not
did you
every
ever?
week, but I do it
Sometimes.
sometimes.
Okay. Um, but yeah, so like for example, in the class group where people there is probably about 20 people at least, very consistently 20 people who are going through typing and tracking the results and all of that. And like for people who have been at it for a year and not seeing the kinds of improvements that they were expecting to see,
Yeah.
like that smacks on one of two things. One, either the system is flawed, which I don't think, I mean, the system isn't perfect, but I don't think the system has fundamental problems that would point to this. Or two, our methodology for typing needs a lot of work, and I think that's the one that's like that is where Dave and Shannon should be pointing their attention.
Hmm.
Like, how can we iterate on that process better?
Yeah, for sure.
um
Hmm.
do you have other like concerns with the system, or like things that you would change about it?
One idea that I've been having recently is just you mentioned something like previously. I don't know if it was within the past week or within the past however many months ago that you've been preaching this, but I totally agree about they need a feedback loop in their
Oh,
class
yeah,
for sure. Like
yeah,
and one thing that I was thinking about is just, hey, why not create a poll in the actual website, like with the 9 coins, what do people get? And depending on the class answers, they could dedicate a little bit of time on the Thursday Q&As just to clear that up.
yeah.
Does that make any sense?
Yes. I wholeheartedly agree. They do need a better, and they're I'm in the Bay Area, so they're having that meetup, and so we're recording this on the 6th. And they're having that meetup next weekend, and I plan to talk to them about that a little bit, about they do need some kind of feedback loop. Because what kind of class are you going to have if your students and your teachers aren't talking?
Yeah. And I don't know if it was you or someone else that gave a really good analogy of, hey, if a teacher is giving a really hard exam and 90% of the students fail, like, what kind of teacher is
Something's
that?
going on. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, that came up, I think, when I was chatting with the INTJs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked about the system, and now we're talking a bit about the class. Are there other things aside from the feedback loop that you, or like what do you think Dave and Shannon are doing really well? Especially because you got typed a long time ago. Like, you've had your type for a year now,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, August 31st, I got typed.
Oh, okay. So you got your type right after I did.
Oh, really?
I got mine August 20th. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There was
Okay, that's interesting.
August they had a lot of people they were typing in August, though, because that's when they also they locked it down, remember, until like September or something like that, because they had too many people. There was like a couple of months last summer when they weren't taking any new people, and that's when they changed to this, like, okay, enrollment is open September on the 1st of the month, and then it's closed the rest of the month.
I actually did not know that, but I suspect they weren't taking any people in because they were typing us.
Yeah. They were backlogged.
Yeah.
They were backlogged for a while. Yeah.
Yeah,
So August, a lot of people got their types in August. Evelyn
okay.
got hers as well. Yeah. August of last year, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So are there things that you would change with the class, or things that especially because you've seen them iterate and things have improved over the past year? Are there things you think they're doing really well?
Mm-hmm. I can't think of a specific thing because, I mean, different things get to different people, right? Like, obviously.
That's true.
But, like, yeah, so I think what they're doing is fine just because just little snippets of what they say, they will affect people differently.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense that, how do I explain it?
Right. They're putting out a lot of stuff, and, one bit will hit my understanding in a way that's different than how another bit will hit your understanding.
Sure. Yeah. That works too. Huh. One thing that I wish I could copy is just like, I guess I could say like their time management. Like, apparently they're able to do everything that they do by 2 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
and just like do all the work months in advance.
Yep.
That sounds pretty cool. Like, that is actually a system that I would want to implement.
Yes. Yeah, that took them a long time. They spent a lot of time trying to iterate over their NI system to figure out a way to get everything done by 2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's something I should probably try to do more.
Oh man, I'm not gonna even touch that for now. I'm a total mess right now, though. So
Oh, yeah.
so what about so we talked about the class a little bit, and we talked about the system. What about the community as a whole? Like, what do you see happening in the community, and what is it that draws you to participate in the community? And then also the opposite, like, what are the things that are happening in the community that you would love to see change and get better?
Mm, I don't think there's anything wrong with the community itself. Maybe it's just me that should try to like get more involved a little. And that's actually what I'm trying to do with these like interviews and stuff,
Oh,
because
awesome.
now I'm finally like accepting interviews and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Because previously I don't think I would have.
Yeah, what changed?
What changed? I mean, the main reason why I didn't want to do it beforehand is just because I didn't necessarily feel like I had sleep processed enough about essentially my type and just my journey through OPS in order to actually, be able to talk with someone without having a weird emotional, not necessarily breakdown, but a weird emotional moment.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to have that on camera. But very recently, I don't know, I just started getting curious, and Austin reached out to me, and I accepted doing an interview with him. And yeah, I guess that just like I'm just going with the momentum from that.
Okay, cool. Cool.
Yeah,
How did that interview go?
pretty smoothly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the one with Austin and Josh, right, for their channel?
Yes, except I don't think Josh could make it because I only have free time weekend mornings, and Josh wasn't available at
Oh,
that
okay.
time. Yeah, so it was just Austin. I mean,
Cool.
yeah, it went pretty smoothly.
That's nice. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to when they finally start, dropping videos for their channel.
Oh
That'll
yeah.
be really interesting. Um, okay, so is there anything that like um that you kind of wish people would ask you that they never do or people knew about you?
Interesting. I mean, I'm a pretty private person. Like this might be surprising because I'm so extroverted apparently, but I'm actually pretty private. So my gut reaction to that would be, nah, I'm good. You don't need to know much about me.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Um, okay, cool. So before we wrap up, I have like a Lewis House type question that I like to ask. And
Oh
that's
no,
like,
is it the three truths?
no, not the three truths.
Okay, okay.
Not the three truths, but like it's I think similar idea because his three truths is like if you had a mic to the world, what are the three truths you would tell them, right?
Mhm.
So mine is a little different. Um, if you could tell our community anything, what is it that you would want them to know?
Hmm. I have not processed this one. Hold on.
Yeah, of course.
Processing.
Okay, process away. It's it's a hard one.
The first thing that's coming to mind is SF is not just popularity.
Okay, so what is it?
Huh. One way that I've actually been thinking about it lately is impact. SF
Impact.
has impact, like impact on the culture, impact on the value systems in the real world.
Yes.
Because how is anything going to have impact if it doesn't affect the culture? Does that make any sense?
Yes. Yes. So there's Amanda was the first person to suggest these. I think maybe like
Yes, I actually saw that
you've
interview and it
seen
was
that.
great.
Yeah, and I absolutely love her rebranding, but yes, I think of SF as culture and community. And I think
Mm,
that's very much like very accurate. So we've kind of through the current iteration of that is SF community, ST clarity, NF spirituality, and NT. I'm still playing around with this one, but like intellectualism, sort of. But I feel like intellectualism is too loaded of a term. But I kind of like, yeah. So ST clarity is very like, yeah. And then
I
NF
like SF
spirituality.
community.
Yeah.
SF
I
community.
absolutely feel an obligation to make sure that the cultural vibe of any community I'm in is one that is like welcoming and accepting and like SF in the real world kind of like has the right statement,
Mm,
has the right values in the real world. That makes sense.
yeah. I don't necessarily feel responsible to affect the culture or the community in any way,
Oh,
but
okay.
I definitely do notice differences in communities, like even in the Facebook
Yeah,
groups.
of course.
Like, yeah, I definitely notice differences there or differences between the communities and different cities or different cultures. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, that's just something I'm naturally aware of that some people are not.
Yeah, yeah,
And it was
yeah,
actually very surprising to me to find out that, oh, wait, some people are actually not aware of this stuff.
yeah. I think that's a
Yeah.
really, really good point. um cool. That's a great, I think. So yeah, we kind of got into a discussion about it, but like, so
Okay.
what you would want to tell the community is that SF is more than popularity.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you described popularity as a vapid definition of SF. And yes, that's perfect.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
oh
I
my
think so.
God.
I think that's true probably for all of them. Like that NT nerdy, I think is
Oh,
also just
sure.
like very surface understanding.
I mean, oh my God. And that actually changes with the culture, doesn't it? Like the definition of nerdy and the definition
Oh
of
yeah.
whatever that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, look at where nerdy is today versus where it was in like in the 90s, right? 80s and 90s when you had movies like Revenge of the Nerds. Like two completely different worlds. Like the SF values that come up with the word nerdy has
Hmm.
changed
Yeah,
significantly over the
definitely.
past couple decades.
Being nerdy has actually become more valuable
It is.
over
It's a
time.
desired thing, right?
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
it's the people who are high school nerds that are running the biggest companies in the world now.
Hmm.
So now all of a sudden there's like an SF value attached to it.
Yeah, so I would. Some people might be surprised to find a lot of SFs in like science or engineering, but I am not because there's definitely a value to those fields. If that makes any sense. Like,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. It's kind of like I think this is a place where you and I are both at is that we got our FI on board with valuing the NT because we're both
Yes.
in like so you're, I'm a software engineer and you're also data science and statistics in that area like
Hmm.
where there is that draw to the NT nerdy stuff, I guess. And the
Yeah.
flip side of it is also there's lots of NTs who are in SF kind
Yeah.
of.
In like art or something. That's
Yep.
yeah. That was interesting to find as well.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. Okay, so is there, before we close up, are there any things of yours that you would like to promote? Do you have any channels or website or anything like that?
Not at this point, no.
Okay, well, if that changes, let me know.
All right.
Um, Thank you so much for joining us. This has been a great fun, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Bye.